Hello and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Alfonso Peluso and I'm a Studio Associate Professor in the College of Architecture at IIT, the home of the legendary Mies van der Rohe. Shout out to all my students today. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. It's a windy fall day in Chicago, but the temperature is actually not too bad. We've had some amazing weather over the past week or so, so I can't complain there. So today we're going to look at the plugin for Grasshopper called Kangaroo, and you see this structure flapping in the wind, so to speak. So that's pretty cool. That's what we're going to end up with. We're also going to need some capsules from a couple other plugins, Carumba and Weaverbird. Before we jump into the tutorial, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Click on the red subscribe button. Click on the little bell and make sure you click all to receive all the notifications. There's videos on all the topics that you guys need in architecture school and in the architecture profession. So you can find it all there in one place on my page. So I hope you enjoy that. Also, connect with me on Instagram. Lately, I've been having fun actually posting my students' work. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. Once in a while, I would post it, but now a few times a week I'm posting what my students are doing and I'm getting some good response to that. So connect with me on Instagram at my first name Alfonso underscore my last name Peluso. Okay, so as a case study today, we're looking at Cecil Ballman's entry for the Chemnitz Stadium. This must have been a design competition back in the day, but I've always liked this roof. And they show it a few different ways conceptually. You know, one is there in the model, and another in the model. So you have this wavy roof structure. So that's what I showed you at the very beginning of this video. So that was my inspiration for this video, is Cecil Ballman's Chemnitz Stadium. And if you're not familiar with his work, go to his website at ballmanstudio.com and check out all of his work. It's some really amazing stuff. So the main plugin that we're looking at is Kangaroo 3D, and I'm at kangaroo3d.com. Daniel Piker has provided us with this amazing plugin, and I think it's no longer a plugin. I'm not exactly sure, but it might be coming with Rhino 6 and the latest version of Grasshopper. But if not, you can search Kangaroo on Food for Rhino and you'll find it there, and you can download the latest version and install that on your computer. Another plugin where we actually just need one capsule for, and I'll be pointing that out, is Carumba 3D. So if you go to carumba3d.com, you can download the Carumba 3D plugin there as well. And then the last one that we'll be looking at is Weaverbird. Weaverbird is a mesh subdivision plugin for Grasshopper, so you can also download that. You can search Weaverbird 3D, or that's the fastest way to get there. Typing in Giulio Piacentino's name and remembering that and getting that correct is a little bit tricky. Alright, let's get back into it. Alright, so here's our outline. We're going to be looking to make a boundary surface. We're going to be converting that boundary surface to a boundary mesh. We're going to be defining some anchor points to pin this down. We're going to be creating springs so that it can, flap around like you see it doing here. We're going to need a load to be lifting the elements up, and then a load strength. How high is it going to be lifting? How strong is it going to be lifting? Alright, let me take all of this stuff here and I'll just move it out of my way for now. And I'm going to go ahead and disable it. Alright. Also put this button back where it needs to go and disable it as well. Okay, that's all disabled. Alright. So let's get started here. I'm going to go ahead and delete these curves. this back to wireframe. Alright, so I was just working in a file. I just went to File, New, and I chose Large Objects Feet. So we can do that. You can do that. File, New, Large Objects Feet. And then for the grid, if I go to my perspective, for the grid, I typed in DOC, and I set these all to 10. So that would give me a 100-foot grid with minor grid lines every 10 feet. Okay. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is make a boundary surface. And we're going to do that by constructing a series of points and then drawing an interpolated curve through those points. So let's start out by adding a scribble. And we're going to call this our boundary surface. Start labeling some stuff here. And we're going to use a construct point. Now instead of typing in construct point, I don't know why I always get construct wrong. I'm always missing an S or a T or a C or something. But if I type in X, Y, Z, then I can get a construct point pretty quickly. So construct point there, that puts it at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to make a copy of that. I'm going to bring out some number sliders. I want some number sliders that have negative and positive. So I'm going to double click and type in negative 100 less than 100. Alright, and that's going to give me a number slider from negative 100 to positive 100. Alright, I'm going to put that somewhere around 0 for right now, so that I'm actually going to be able to see that point. Okay. Plug this in. Alright, so there's that second point there. I'm going to do this with 5 points. Okay, if you've done my Mad Architects Absolute Towers video, if you've watched that, this is the same beginning steps as that. Ironically enough, I don't know if that's because of me, because of them, because of the world. I don't know. All right, let's get another one of these. Just making some adjustments here. Alright. Alright, so these are the points. And I need to interpolate. Just a good old interpolate without the tangent T. And go ahead and plug that in. Using my shift key, make sure I get all those plugged in. Alright, and I'm going to add a Boolean Toggle to close that. Plug that into periodic and set that to be true. Alright. I don't know if you guys heard that the noises earlier on in the beginning of the video. It sounded like something was rumbling and about to explode, but that's my washing machine. That thing could really, when it goes into the spin cycle, man, it could really spin and create some rumble. But you know, that's just how it is around here. I gotta make a video, I gotta get it done. I can't worry too much about what's going on in the background. But that's what that was. Alright. Okay, so here we are. This is our, I'm going to call this now our base curve. Okay, I'm going to add a scribble, call this a base curve, because we are going to offset this curve inward and then add some fillet radius to it. You'll see why it'll need that. So we're going to go ahead and use an offset curve. Okay, I'm just labeling these as I go, and you'll see it'll become important. This is my offset curve. Alright, go ahead and plug that in. This is going to need a distance. Let's see what the default is right now, because it needs to be more. Default's 1. Alright, I'm going to try 5.555. Give me some decimal places. Alright. Alright, mine's only going up to 10 right now. I need more than that. So 12.555. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's give it some more. Alright, so you see here, get some sharp corners here, so I want to fillet those radii. So I'm going to copy and paste this scribble. Alright, so fillet corners. Alright. So I'm going to choose a fillet. Plug that in. Alright, so for the radius, what is the radius by default? It's empty. I'm going to try 5.555. Let's see if this will get me where I need to be. I'm not really getting much of a radius there. Sometimes it's the initial curve, not so much what I'm plugging in here, because I'm not getting much coming in. There we go. As I make it smaller, you're starting to see that radius. So let's see here. So you got to work a little bit with these two together. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, let's hide this one because it's in the way. Alright, there we go. Two curves. So the fillet corner is one we're going to want to use. And our base curve one is another one we're going to want to use. We're going to turn this into a surface. So to do that, we're going to use a sweep. And we're going to use, I don't know if I want to use a sweep. Let's use, instead of a sweep, what else? I'm thinking I want to use something different than a sweep. I could use a sweep. I could use a loft. I could use, the one that I want to use is not coming to me right now. Oh, do I go down and look and cheat, or do I think about it some more? Oh, it's not coming to me, and I don't want to waste everybody's time. Why is it not coming to me? I'm gonna be so mad. There it is, a ruled surface. Oh, oh. It was on the tip of my tongue. I just couldn't get it out. Alright, so a ruled surface. And it took me a while to find the best result, or find the best capsule for this, and we'll see why. Alright, so fillet corners is going to go in B, and the original curve is going to go in A, the base curve. Okay, so that's that. We're getting a surface, an untrimmed surface coming out of that, so that's really great. That's really important. We don't want a trimmed surface, and in this case I don't want a B-rep, so I just have a surface coming out. I mean, a B-rep wouldn't be the end of the world, but I just need to know what it is. So an untrimmed surface is way better than a trimmed surface coming out of that. Alright. Okay, so now we're going to convert it to a mesh, and this is actually what I needed Kangaroo for, because Kangaroo has this great, or not Kangaroo, I'm sorry, what I needed Karumba for. I don't want to mix these up. So what I needed Karumba for, it has this great mesh B-reps. Even if you're downloading just the trial version, that should still work no problem. So mesh B-reps is what I need here. Okay, and this mesh resolution, this resolution, that's a new one for me right there. This mesh resolution cannot be 0, so we don't want the mesh resolution to be 0. Okay, so add a scribble here. Can't be 0. Alright, so we don't want that to be 0. So let's plug in, just to begin with, let's plug in 25. We don't want any decimal places for this. I mean, it could be, but alright, so let's plug this in. Alright, so we're starting to get the mesh resolution here. We're starting to triangulate the mesh, and we're going to be decreasing. So you see, as I decrease this, I get more triangles. As I increase it, I get less triangles. Now, if I double click on number slider, I want my minimum to be 1. I don't want it to be 0. Now I can crank this all the way down, and it won't crash. Oh, I felt like it was going to crash there for a second, but no crashing. Alright. Okay, so that's our mesh. I'm going to just start hiding stuff as we go. I'm going to hide that surface. Okay. Alright. Alright, so now this becomes our boundary mesh. Oh, I'm typing in boundary mesh, and I need to be typing in scribble. I should get more in the habit of just copying and pasting those scribbles. Okay, so this is our boundary mesh. Alright, that's our boundary mesh. Alright. This is our boundary surface. Let's put this over here. Okay, we have our boundary surface, our boundary mesh. Okay, so now we're going to start making some things that are part of Kangaroo. So I'm going to make a vertical line here. Not so straight vertical line. One of these days, someone's going to tell me how to make a straight line with the sketch tool. Or is that just David Rutten's sense of humor that there's no way to make a straight line with the sketch tool? Probably. Alright, so some other things before I go into the Kangaroo side of this. We're going to need to work with this mesh a little bit more. So I'm going to move this over. What you're going to need is you're going to want to explode this mesh so that you can get it down to at least its vertices, its points. So we're going to deconstruct. Oops. We're going to deconstruct. See if I can spell it right. Mesh. Okay, we're going to deconstruct the mesh. And at the very least, we have its vertices. Okay. So I'm going to put those vertices in a point container, and we'll see why in a little bit. And I'm going to add a scribble, and I'm just going to call this point cloud. This becomes the most important capsule of the day, I think. So we'll call that point cloud. Okay. Alright, so we have that. Let's look at setting up some anchor points. Alright, so before we do that, how about some springs instead? Let's do the springs. I always want those on the top for some reason. Alright, so springs. This is a Kangaroo thing. Alright, so now if you haven't seen my Kangaroo video, there'll be a link to it at the end of this video. If you haven't seen it and you wanted to see my previous Kangaroo video, there's a link to it. It has some additional features, but you can continue working on this one as well. No need to have seen that one first. But if I go to goals line, I'm going to choose line length. This used to be called springs. I like the name springs, but it's called length line. Okay. And I need a mesh edges. Mesh edges. Okay, and we're going to plug our mesh into that, and I'm going to plug both the naked and the interior edges into the same line. Alright, so that's turning all these lines, if we have more or less lines, turning them all into springs and making them flexible, which is important to do this computational form finding that we're doing. Okay, so now let's get into the anchors. So under goals point, I'm going to choose anchor. Alright, so I need to be plugging in, or I need to be defining my anchor points. Alright, now in the past, in this previous video that I'm talking about, I had a pretty slick way of creating anchors, and I'll just show you what that was, and then we're going to look at another slick way to do it. I think even more slick. They're both slick. They're both, you come across them, you'll slide on them. Alright, okay. So I'm going to use an evaluate surface. Okay, so that makes this good that this was a boundary surface, or helpful. So I'm going to plug that in, and I'm going to look at using an MD slider. I'm going to need to reparameterize this, and what that does is you'll see a point moving around. Okay, so this is one way that I can define anchor points, is by using this evaluate surface, by moving this around and then defining points based on moving it around. Now, this works really good for rectangular surfaces, not so much on these irregular surfaces. So that's one way. And if you go back and look at my previous Kangaroo video, it'll go all into that and the way that works. Today I want to do this another way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller to get these a little bit closer together. I like having the 3 rings right there, about right there, having the 3 rings. It's not bad. That's 8. What did I have before? I'm just kind of curious to what I liked when I did this before. Holy moly, 8. There it is. You like what you like. Alright. I actually I wouldn't mind not having these in here. I wonder if there's a way. Because 9, not really. Once I go to 8, alright, not a big deal. Okay, I like having that. I like having these 3 rows in most cases. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to define, I'm going to go to top view. We're going to define some anchors just by using a circle, and then the points within the circle they'll become the anchors. So in Rhino, I'm just going to draw some circles, and when I draw them, I'm going to include 3 points. I don't know why, but I like a triangular anchor. Definitely don't like a single anchor. In my first, apologize, in my first video for Kangaroo, I did a lot of single point anchors, and I would recommend against that. Alright, so there's quickly a bunch of anchor points, and the way that we're going to bring those points, or tell, the way that we're going to tell Grasshopper that those are anchor points, is we're going to do that with a point. Now there's 2 of these. There's point in curve, and there's point in curves. So there's point in curve and point in curves. Now we have, it just depends on if you have one curve or multiple curves, and we have multiple curves. Okay. Alright, so the cloud, the point cloud that it's going to determine if those points are in it is our point cloud there. The curves, let's bring those in to Grasshopper. Okay, we're going to right click, set multiple curves, pick all of these. Okay, those are all in here. Now this part's a little tricky, so I'm going to use a call pattern. Okay, so the list of points that it's calling from, that's these. And then the relationship is the pattern. So there's a bunch of zeros are points that fall outside. 1 would be ones that fall right on the circle, and 2 are the ones inside. So there's a bunch of zeros, and eventually there's a 2, zeros, 2, and all the 2's will get picked up in this call pattern. So when I select that, you see only those points are highlighted in green, only the ones in the circle. That's pretty slick. I love that. One of my students showed that to me, and I love when students show me things. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that into point. Those are going to become my anchors. So we have springs. Get these lined up here. We have springs. Trying to copy paste this. Okay, we have springs. We have anchors in this case. We need a load. Okay, we need a load. So that's going to be under our goals point load. Okay, so now this is looking for a point. Okay, to apply the loads to. That's going to be our point cloud. Now you know why I called this point cloud out. This makes it so much easier. So I'm going to plug that in. And then our force vector is the direction of the load, and that's going to be in the z direction. And then we're going to need a number slider for how much load we're going to apply to that. Okay, and I'm not sure what that's going to be, but for right now I'm going to put in 12.555. It's a number slider higher than 10. And it has some decimal points. Alright. I should save. You guys should save. Save at home. I'm saving here. You're going to want to save often. Okay, now the last thing that we need is a show capsule. That's going to be under, in Kangaroo, it's under our main. And this, you plug the mesh into it. So we plug our boundary mesh. Boundary mesh gets plugged into our show. That just shows the final result. Now I'm not sure if in my previous video for Kangaroo if I used a merge capsule or not, but if I didn't, I apologize, because I think you should always use a merge capsule to merge all of these together. It's always adding one more. Can always go in and minus that out if I wanted to. Okay, so now I'm going to add my bouncy solver and plug these all in as goal objects. Okay, something's happening there. Let's look at it in a perspective view. Oh, it's a wonderful wavy thing. It really is. It's a beauty with more load the way I have it right there. I'm not even going to move those anchor points around. Alright, let's go a little bit further with it and see what we have. Okay, so coming out of the O, that's where our mesh is our list item 0. You see it there, mesh with vertices 114 and faces 146. So I'm going to add a list item to that. And I'm going to add a custom preview. So remember at the beginning of the tutorial, I was using a reset button. Let's go back to the load first though. Alright, so this is going to increase or decrease that load amount. Okay. Alright. Okay, so now what we're going to have here on the bouncy solver is there's a reset button, and I'm going to add there's a reset, but I'm going to add a button to that. So you can do what I was doing at the beginning of the video. Okay. There's also a on, because you notice after I reset this, it still says running. So that noise is my neighbor's lawn service. That's the leaf blower. Leaf blowers. If you're at IIT and you're in one of the buildings, you're familiar with a leaf blower because those are always happening, especially during class, right? Okay, now there's an on here. So with a Boolean toggle, I can turn that on or off, okay, or pause it. Okay, so that can be running, or and I can turn it off and pause it, which is especially helpful on your computer's memory when your computer's freaking out because it's doing all this work. You can always turn that Boolean toggle to false. And you just got to make sure though that you put it back to true, because now when it's on false and I reset that button, nothing happens. If I set it back to true, it comes up. Alright, let's pause that for a second. Alright, we're doing pretty good. So the last bit of this is going to be our Weaver bird. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this not so straight vertical line here, and we'll start our Weaver bird part of it. Okay, so why am I getting us into Weaver bird? Well, if we look at this case study, if we go back to Cecil Bauman, oh, there it was. He has this slide where he shows it right here as this triangulated structure. Ours won't be as unique as his, but that's what we're going to do, is we're going to create this triangulated structure. And we're going to do that in Weaverbird. Okay, so we're going to use what's called a Weaverbird's picture frame. So I got that from Transform, Weaverbird's picture frame. And I'm going to plug my mesh into that. And right away you'll see you get these really cool triangulated structure here. So now that triangulated structure is flat. It doesn't have any thickness to it. So we're going to give it some thickness using a Weaverbird's mesh thicken. Now this distance isn't really a unit because it's set to 5, and with this thing being around 100 feet by 100 feet, I don't know, this looks a little thicker than 5, but I'm going to put in 1.555. See what that looks like. Okay, so that becomes a little bit thinner. And I'm going to add a custom preview for that. And I'm going to give it another color by going and creating a color swatch. And I'm going to set that color swatch to a blue color. Plug that in. Okay, so I'm going to take these two custom previews, select both of them, Shift Control I, right click, and turn preview off. Okay, this is looking pretty slick, pretty cool. Alright, I'm going to go to the top view and add a plane so that I can have something to cast some shadows on, so that when I change this to a rendered viewport, there we go, I get some shadows on there. Alright, where's that button at? Where's our button? Let's turn this back on. There's our button on our bouncy solver. That's just a lot of fun to do, isn't it? Alright, so if you found this video helpful, please give me a like below and tell me why in the comments. Why did you find it helpful? Alright, my head's going to pop up. Make sure you click on my head to subscribe. Click on the links in the upper right and the lower right, and those will bring you to some videos that'll help you out with this one too. Alright, I'll see you on the next one.